What is going on, everyone? Today we are back at it. We have the RTX 5070 Ti. This is the gaming gigabyte OC model, and we're going to be checking it out today in Black Myth Wukong at 1440p. We're going to be going through all the different settings, checking out ray tracing, DLSS, and everything that you can expect from this card at this resolution on this title. We'll be pairing it today with a 9800X3D, and as usual, we're not overclocking anything. Now, if you get something out of this, I'm just going to ask you to click that little button down there below. So with all that out of the way, let's jump into the video. Alright, without further ado, we have Wukong here. We're at low settings. We're just going to run through here. The textures are pretty bad, but we want to go through this comprehensively. So this is just the low preset, no upscaling, no frame gen. And with that out of the way, this is kind of our baseline. Let's just go up a notch and see what we can do on the medium preset. Again, with no upscaling and no frame generation, we're just going to come down here. Leave all the bells and whistles turned off for now. We're just going to see what it looks like at medium. I will say the difference between low and medium is quite huge. The low preset just gets rid of all the textures. Everything looks completely flat. But once you turn on that medium, it starts to look like a proper modern title. So medium is a really good setting for not just visually, but it gives you a lot of break on your system resources. So if you're on a card like the 5060 Ti or something like that, medium is not a bad option. I've got some videos that I'm going to pop up on the screen right here if you're interested in different cards with this game. I did a lot of testing on this title. It's a pretty good title to benchmark cards with, so I'll lean on it a lot for that. And let's just keep going here. So this was the medium. All right, so let's just keep on going through here and see what we can do with a high preset. So this is going to be just a high preset, no upscaling, and no frame generation. Let's just let it load in here. I'm doing a lot of changes at the moment, so give it a second to catch up. Okay, so that looks good. We're at 96 FPS here, and without any sort of ray tracing, no frame generation, no upscaling. This is a nice experience here. It's nice and fluid. Got a few little snags here and there. Nothing too bad though. A lot of times I am changing settings so frequently that the game starts to kind of freak out a little bit, but this game remains to be one of the more stable options to benchmark. But anyway, let's just keep going through it here. A little stutter there, a little stutter here, but once you start to play areas and leave settings alone, that kind of stuff will start to straighten itself out. All right, so let's just keep on going through the next presets here. So we checked out high. Let's go to very high. And then after this, we'll go to cinematic, and then we'll jump over to some DLSS and see kind of where this card starts to, need some DLSS help at this resolution, especially with no frame generation. But we'll probably have to lean on it more once we get to the ray tracing segment. I've got chapter markers set up at the bottom if you want to skip ahead, as well as the top bar there. That will give you all the relevant information. Let's go ahead and make quick work of this dude. All right, so took care of him. All right, so the 69 FPS here at 1440, so it looks pretty good so far. Let's just jump over and see what cinematic does. This will definitely be the hardest setting to run, especially without any frame gen or DLSS. So that drops us below 60. Well, not quite, but sometimes I guess. But jumped up to 70, so that might have just been some assets loading in, keeping a little bit more strain on the system. But I guess depending on where you're at, it's high 50s or low 70s here, again with no upscaling, no ray tracing or anything like that. All right, so looks like we're going to be able to get a pretty good high refresh rate experience once we implement some DLSS. But you could just straight frame generate from this. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that either. You don't necessarily have to upscale before you frame generate. The only reason that I do that most of the time is just to get to a nice, comfortable 60 plus experience. I like to have games run very smoothly and very nicely before I start to frame generate. Sometimes that's easier than other titles, but this title runs actually pretty well. VRAM management after a lot of updates and patches have really smoothed out a lot of things that this game initially launched with. But yeah, we're looking pretty good here. So what I'm going to do is just implement a little bit of upscaling now. and see what that looks like without any sort of help otherwise. So let me get to the right tab here. Let's just drop down to a 67, which would be a quality upscale, which is a very light upscale. It doesn't really change visually anything that is going on here, but it gives us about a 75 FPS experience without seeming like it's dropping down into those 50s at all, as well as got rid of a bunch of those little hangs here and there that we were experiencing earlier. That frame time graph looks nice and flat. FPS is definitely, as I say that, it stutters, of course. That's just the way it goes. I try to not say stuff, but because that sends out a message to start screwing up. But anyway, yeah, that's just a few here and there. But I have noticed that with stutters like that, it typically can be resolved by a little bit of frame generation, and you don't have any problem at all. So you can implement some things that'll really make the gaming experience perfect for you. Let's just keep going up. Let's see what the next level of DLSS can give us. This game actually looks really good on performance. It actually wants you to do that constantly. So we're going to check out that in a minute, but let's go to balanced. This will be a setting that will give you that little bit of edge over quality without going all the way to balanced. And right here we're at 84, 86 FPS. Again, no frame generation is being implemented at all. This game does support all the way up to the 4X DLSS 4 technology, so you can get some insane frames whenever you turn that on. And with the VRAM management, you can actually have the resources to do that frame generation, which is a nice thing about this title. All right, so yeah, 80 FPS looks pretty good. Let's go over to performance though, and let's see what that does. As far as just how many more frames we can get per second with that performance turned on. All right, so that gives us 90 FPS, 94 FPS, 82, 81. If you hear me clear my throat a little bit, I've just kind of gotten over a cold, so hopefully that's not too distracting. But yeah, we're at 76 FPS here, 83, 85. Yeah, we're looking really good. Honestly, performance still looks really nice and sharp on this title, and you get back a lot of performance. So just the implementation of DLSS brought us from high 50s up to a pretty solid 75 at worst, situation. And that tiny bit of sharpening, I'm not sure if it's just the title with all the vegetation in this area, but that little bit of sharpening actually makes it look good once you turn on that DLSS. Things start to look a little bit more contrasty, if that's a word. But yeah, I kind of like the way it looks whenever you turn on that quality DLSS and all the other subsequent DLSS settings after that. Let's just jump over here and turn on a little bit more DLSS just to give you, kind of that full-blown ultra performance. This is probably going to look pretty soft, but yeah, it definitely degrades at ultra performance. That doesn't really give you too much more as far as frame rate goes. In the 90s, to me it's just not worth going quite this low. But for what it's worth, I did want to show you guys that you can just really milk the performance out of it with DLSS. But with that said, let's just go back up to a native experience here. Let's just go back up here all the way up, and then we're going to turn on some frame gen. So we're just going to turn that on. This is an automatic setting, so I want to just skip over that because I want to be a little bit more deliberate. So we're just going to go up to a DLAA experience with frame gen. So this, if you remember, this was just under 60 frames per second, and it was still pretty nice and smooth, but with the frame generation on top of that, again with no upscaling, you're looking at a plus 100 FPS experience, and it feels just as responsive. And in a title like this, responsiveness isn't as critical as something like a competitive shooter. So this is also a good setting that you can run and to get a very, very favorable experience. Of course, this is no ray tracing yet. We're going to check that out in a minute, but let's just jump over to the next setting here, which we can probably just drop down to that quality DLSS and give you guys a nice look at what it looks like with quality DLSS and frame generation. All right, so you're looking at 120s. Yeah, so up in the upper 110 area, or 120. There's a 130 even. So it's got that. Seems like the game has about a 20 FPS swing, depending on where you are, what you're looking at. You know, at least in this area. And this is kind of where I've stuck with testing all of my GPUs, just for that consistency. That way you can definitely tell like which one is performing better than the other. But yeah, there's no real need to worry too much about this card. I'm going to jump over to the next level of frame generation though, just to see what it kind of looks like whenever you just go all the way up to that 4x. All right, so 3x would of course fall somewhere between 2x and 4x, but yeah, you're at a let's see, we're at 240 FPS here. So yeah, 250. There's no real reason to worry about this card if you're not doing any ray tracing. I say that without doing ray tracing, yet we might be just fine. So I'm going to actually jump over and complete some of these tests with the ray trace setting, because that's probably what you're going to expect out of a 5070 Ti, especially if you're looking at buying one for this 1440p resolution. This will probably be kind of where you're thinking you're going to play at for a while. So let's just do that now. I'm going to turn the DLSS off, go back up to 100%, and we're going to jump down to let's jump down to the let's go medium. Skip low. Low looks terrible. So we're going to go to the low ray tracing preset with the medium graphics preset. No DLSS, no frame generation. I'm going to apply it and do a restart, and then I'll be right back. Alright, so we are back in it after a restart. Right now we are on the medium preset, no upscaling, no frame generation, with that first level of ray tracing set to low. And that gives us about a 50, high 50s, low 60s experience. I will say that ray tracing really does give this title a little bit more depth, more contrast. Yet it does add a fair bit of visual fidelity to the game. So yeah, definitely like it. Let's just keep going though. So we're on this medium preset. So let's just jump up to something like, I'm just kind of going to shoot from the hip again here. Let's go up to high and see what that looks like with the low preset. We'll just kind of chew through these presets with that low ray tracing for now. And see kind of what we can expect. So yeah, we are at 4850. So yeah, we're going to have to use some quality DLSS to get this over the hump of 60 FPS. So yeah, we're just going to go through this first and see what we can do. All of this stuff will be in the chapter markers, of course, like always. And if you like what you see, please consider subscribing. It helps me out more than you know. And comment and share. It really helps boost me up in that magical land of YouTube world. All right, so yeah, we're gonna go through. Let's see, we're at 40s, low 50s. We're just gonna go through this a little bit more. I kind of want to find where the card kind of starts to, what I say, fall apart. It's not really falling apart. It's just kind of like, where is it really obvious that we need to use some DLSS? Right here at 45 FPS, I would say that this is kind of an area where, you know, jumping up to some quality DLSS wouldn't be a bad idea, just to maintain more frames and maintain a little bit smoother frame time graph. Because right now we're not killing your VRAM or anything like that, but it is doing a lot of heavy lifting. Even at 1440p ray tracing, just, you know, it really does require a lot of horsepower to get that ray tracing to look good. And this isn't even the high preset, so we're just going to keep going here. I'm going to actually jump over to that quality DLSS preset. Well, actually, let's just keep going. I want to just see what cinematic might do. All right, so this is cinematic with the low ray tracing preset, and we are at 45 FPS, 46 FPS, around 50 at times possibly, but for the most part, yeah, this is kind of where the card is saying, hey, a little bit of DLSS wouldn't be a bad idea. And DLSS, thank God, is just like so good. It doesn't really, it's kind of a no-brainer, especially on a title like this that has a lot more demanding assets. I mean, you've got ground cover, lighting, you know, very high resolution textures. I mean, you're asking a lot. I mean, if I wasn't looking at this through the lens of playing a video game, you could almost trick me into thinking that it was just a photo you took somewhere until I started to look at it really closely. So I mean, that says a lot for what we're asking these cards to do nowadays. So yeah, the evolution of gaming has definitely gotten to the point where the reality starts to look less pretty than the game. But anyway, I'm off on a tangent. Let's just keep going. Anyway, let's jump over here and see what a little bit of DLSS looks like with that cinematic preset. So this is cinematic with some DLSS, so specifically DLSS quality, low ray tracing with a cinematic preset. All right, so that gives us right around 64, so that's pretty surprising. That's a nice jump. 68, 71. Again, our VRAM allocation is nice and managed. It's just under 9, and our used is 7.3. So I will say, I say this a lot in my videos, I almost prefer the look of DLSS quality most of the time. It gives it a little bit of image sharpening, and you're upscaling from such a nice high resolution to begin with that honestly, visually, unless you were like side by side at 10x zoom, I don't think you would really be able to tell. It's not like someone can sit down and say, oh, that's definitely quality DLSS and not native. I mean, that kind of thing is like, I don't know, maybe some people can. I can't. I definitely can't. So I almost just recommend quality DLSS at least just as a base setting for most games, especially this DLSS 4 stuff. I mean, it is remarkably good. All right, so let's just jump over. So that looks like a nice setting where we can jump up a little bit more on our ray tracing and see what we need to do there. So we're going to go to medium ray tracing. All right, and then we're going to see what we need to do to maintain a nice performance level here. So medium ray tracing still keeps it around 70 FPS. So the difference between low and medium ray tracing doesn't seem to be that much. Usually it starts off with contact shadows, and then possibly, I don't really know what it's doing here, but contact shadows is generally the very first thing that low ray tracing takes care of, and then you get into more ambient light kind of stuff. And then the reflections come in as you go up, and the reflections are really what taxes the GPU because it's just far more of a lighting demand versus a shadow demand. But yeah, right now we're at 70 FPS, and everything looks really nice and sharp. I love all of the contrast that the DLSS is providing with, combined with that that sharpening and the contact shadows. It really makes the image stand out a lot better than without all those things turned on. So right here we're at 64 FPS, so might as well just go up a little bit more. We've definitely got the frames to do it. So this thing always moves. There we go. Leave it alone. Stay there. All right. So looks like very high is the highest we can go. So right now, I just want to run through this. We are on quality DLSS, no frame generation. Our graphics preset is set to cinematic, which is the highest it can go, and our ray tracing is set to very high, which is the highest it can go. So all we're doing is just a little bit of sharpening and upscaling with that DLSS, and you are still at a pretty respectful 53 FPS. I mean, console, eat your heart out. A console would never be able to do this, especially with this visual fidelity. There's just no way. You're right there under 60. I mean, to be honest, at this point, you could just frame generate. I mean, on a title like this, I always consider what type of game it is versus obsessing over, like, gotta be 60 all the time. You could just jump over and do some frame generation from this point forward and probably have a really good experience, because really on this title, anything in the 50s, anything maybe 45 and up, feels pretty good still. You don't really need to have the 60 necessarily if you prefer to have a little bit more visual fidelity over like the highest frame rate. Sorry if you hear the lawnmower guy. They're mowing a hill behind my house randomly, so if you hear that, apologies. All right, so yeah, we are looking like we could probably do a little bit more to help this out. Let's just jump down to that balanced setting here. So again, I'm not touching frame generation yet. This is just balanced DLSS, and yeah, that takes care of it. I mean, we're over 60, pretty reliably in the 70s even. And yeah, we are looking like we are in a pretty good position to go ahead and do some frame generation. Again, you can kind of just extrapolate the frame generation as pretty much, 2x, 3x, and 4x. It's roughly the same, and it all depends on the VRAM that you have left over for the most part. It's, a little bit murky, but we have plenty of VRAM. If I was to turn on frame generation with no additional VRAM left, it would say that it was generating frames, but it just wouldn't. It would just say like, no, I don't have enough VRAM. So you got plenty of VRAM on this title. I do want to see what it looks like with these current settings right here on the right thing. All right, there it is, moving down a little bit. All right, so I do want to see what it looks like with these current settings and just going down to that performance DLSS, because it still does look really good. And that gives you 72 FPS, and the sharpening, the lighting, the depth, the contrast, with all these different things kind of working together, it looks so good. I mean, this water right here, this little puddle, you can see it's reflecting the tree behind it. It just adds so much more life to the image to have this highest quality of ray tracing turned on. I just love the way it looks. I am definitely someone that, as long as I have a nice experience, I don't really obsess too much about like the highest frame rate possible, especially in a title like this. But 72 FPS is very, very respectful, and we're not frame generating yet. So let's go in here, kind of go through this last leg of frame generation. I told you before you could probably frame generate from all these settings here. Let's just see, as a reminder, what that will give us. I want to make sure that we are given accurate information here. So this is completely maxed out, DLAA native, 0 frame generation, no upscaling, cinematic, full-blown ray tracing. You're at 31 FPS. So yeah, definitely going to have to use some DLSS to get that up a little bit before we start frame gen. But as I recall, if we drop down to the quality preset, I'm just going to use my arrow keys here because it's driving me crazy. All right, so this is the quality preset, no frame generation. All this stuff is completely maxed out, and that gave us, I believe, a nice lift up into the 50s. Yep. All right, so we're going to frame generate from here, and we're just going to turn on that 4x because we have so many additional gigs left of VRAM. Let's just go ahead and go all the way to the max and check that out. All right, so that gives you a nice 170 FPS. If you were to have a controller, you would absolutely never notice anything. And to be honest, you'd have to be just extremely sensitive to any sort of, mouse movement or delay to notice anything, because your base frame rate is almost to that 60. I mean, it's in the 50s. That's pretty damn close. And I would probably play that just like this myself. Because it just looks so good. It looks really nice, that quality DLSS on top of some frame generation up to 4x. Yeah, this is a great experience here. And visually, it's just pretty striking. It looks really, really good. I mean, just take it all in. It looks almost like you're playing through a photograph. It looks that good nowadays. So yeah, let's jump over and see what else we can test out here. So jump over here. Let's go down to that 58, and just as a reminder, get everybody to kind of, get a base frame rate here again. So yeah, that is the setting that we determined. If you want to max it out and stay around 60 pretty reliably, that balanced DLSS is kind of the one to go with. So that gives you a nice 58, 59, 60, 62, kind of that right there around where you want to be for the most part. So let's jump over here and frame gen from this setting, and let's go on up to 4x. We got plenty of VRAM, so let's just go ahead and max this sucker out, and that will give us 174 FPS. Looks super good. I mean, damn, this is just like a really good card for this resolution. Of course you got to, it's not a 5090. You're going to have to use DLSS, but you know, there are titles out there that even the 5090 has to use DLSS on. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. It's a really good way to reduce the load on your GPU, the lifespan of your GPU. You're not cranking it up to, you know, the max heat that it could possibly withstand. I mean, it's just a good way to reduce a lot of strain on your system as well. So I'm a very strong supporter of upscaling, especially at the state that it's at now. DLSS 2 was quite rough. DLSS 3 was impressive, but DLSS 4 is like, I mean, it's really damn good. And more titles are going to be coming with just out of the box with DLSS 4 ready to go. You don't have to force it or anything like that. So let's just come back out here. Now that we've kind of seen what all to expect in a little bit of a different area, let's jump over here and see what else we need to do just to give you guys kind of the information that you want to know. Let's drop that down to performance. Let's go back and turn this off, turn that off. All right, so ray tracing, very high, cinematic, everything looks good. And then I'm going to run through kind of one more setting at the very end that's sort of like if you don't really care about completely maxing everything out, but you still want a good visual experience, I'll do that as well right after this. So let's just, as a reminder, we were at about 72 FPS. This is, of course, no frame generation, but we are on a performance DLSS level, and everything is maxed out. Cinematic as well as ray tracing, you're at 72 FPS here with performance DLSS. And to be fair, this is where the game constantly recommends you start off at. Sorry about that Creative Cloud notification. All right, so yeah, we are going to look at kind of where that frame gen will take us here. All right, so one more setting, and then we'll get into that little last leg that I wanted to talk through. So this will give us 208, 210 FPS. Yeah, you're fine. You kind of get the gist. This is going to be a pretty good experience on this card if you're willing to adjust some of those settings as far as DLSS, use your frame gen, and it's all personal. You know, that's why I kind of go through so many of these different settings so that you can make an informed decision about what you're looking at, what you're going to buy, how you're going to build your system, or, you know, if you're considering a pre-built, you know, is it worth your money? And that's kind of why I started this channel. So if you like that kind of thing, be sure to subscribe. We are, you know, probably never going to stop. So yeah, I'm going to be around a while. So go ahead and subscribe. Of course, drop a comment if you want to see a game, a title, and a card. Or not a game, a title, a game, a resolution, and a card. And then I'll be able to grab all that stuff together, put it in my little handy dandy notebook, and get to it once I get through all the other requests. But yeah, let's jump over to the last section here that I wanted to explore. So, you know, if you really just want to have a good experience without worrying too much about anything else, I'm going to drop it to the quality. I'm just going to turn this off. I kind of view frame generation as a nice to have, not necessarily something that you have to do. Very high ray tracing. I think this would be a really nice experience. Sorry to cut there. I have notifications set up on my recording PC and it is going crazy. All right. So anyway, so this will give you about 64 FPS, 60, right around 60. And yeah, so you could take this and say, you know, play just like this and frame generate all you want to. You're going to get really nice high resolution textures. You're going to have that nice pretty ray tracing, as well as, you know, not sacrificing much on quality at all. That DLSS looks great, and you know, you're on high. Everything's pretty much I think this is a nice balanced experience right here with these settings. And let's jump into it. So 4x, here you go. All right, so that gives you 200 FPS, nice base frame rate around 60, and everything looks good. Quality DLSS, max ray tracing with a high preset. And yeah, this is going to be a good experience. I think this is how it would play actually right here. And yeah, for the most part, that's gonna wrap everything up. And of course, be kind, subscribe. I've got that as my little shelf that I'm sitting on right here. It's to remind everyone to please subscribe. That helps me out so much, more than you know. Thanks for making it to the end of the video. Again, if you have a game and a card and a resolution that you'd like me to test out, just drop it in the comments below, and we'll see you in the very next video. Peace.